People, I'm Shaggy, the opinionated hippie, and this is part 16 of what I hope is a never ending series of reviews and rankings of the Grateful Dead's Dave's Picks, their archival concert release series that has been going on through the mail for many, many years 11 now, 12. And this obviously is volume 16. That's why it's part 16. I'm going to review this release and then I'll show you where it falls amongst all the other 16 or the other 15 that have been released thus far. This is a complete show from March 28th, 1973. No bonus disc. A lot of these Dave's picks have bonus discs. And this is like one of those weird eras where they're kind of in a crossroads. Kind of reminds me of almost like late 73 Zappa. This is early 73 Dead. But once you have a lot of newer, shorter songs being introduced, that would change or kind of be tweaked over the years, while you still have a couple long sort of epic songs dropped in to kind of balance it out. But I really, 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 really like this disc. It is sort of a show of two halves, and the first two discs essentially are pretty much nothing but just like really short songs, right? Like no epic jams. We got one really good jam in the first set. But what is really, really amazing about this is all the songs played incredibly well, except for maybe one. There's some really good song choices on here. There is only time a song that has not yet been released by the Dead on here that is, I think, a fantastic song. You got early versions of songs. And then on the second half, the latter half of the show, you get your like space jams and you get your more lengthier improvisations that are, I think, amazing. So yeah, again, 3 discs. You got the entire show. The first set is all of disc 1 and then 4 songs on disc 2. You get a Cumberland Blues to open. Sounds great. One of the attractions of this release is Jerry's guitar is pretty clear and pretty like straightforward in the mix. So Jerry seems to be driving a lot of these songs, at least the way the mix is and the way it sounds. Cumberland Blues, excellent opener. Don't know why that didn't open more shows. Just a great way. Plus, it also almost leaves you like, do we go a Jerry direction or do we go a Bob direction? Because it seems like after Cumberland, you can almost go either direction. So we get a Cumberland Blues. Really nice opener. This leads us to a Jerry direction. We go to a Here Comes Sunshine. Pretty short in the grand scheme of things. Here Comes Sunshine, like 9 minutes. But we're early in its career, which was kind of short as far as 73, 74 goes. And it's still just a great song, a great performance. It's performed well. It's performed tight. The jams are interesting, if not, they're not epic, but they're really good, solid jams. The middle solo and sort of the ending solo. Just really good energy and a really nice second song placement. I really enjoy this. We get a Mexicali Blues. Then we get a Wave That Flag, which was like an early version of US Blues. This was released as one of the bonus tracks on like when they re-released all their albums. I think it was a bonus track on Mars Hotel, right? Yeah, Mars Hotel. But yeah, kind of neat. I mean, I like it going in the middle of the first set and not a US Blues where it would eventually be like as a closer. Yeah, pretty interesting little song. It's neat to hear this song, an early version of US Blues before it became US Blues. A lot of the same lyrics. Then we get a Beat It On Down the Line, a Loser, always can take a loser, a Jack Straw, a Box of Rain, nice song choice right there with a Box of Rain. They Love Each Other, El Paso, Road Jimmy, a mid first set Around and Around. Not really sure where this song belongs that I would like it. I don't know. It's not one of my favorite songs, but I guess like just throwing it off as a song in the middle of the first set kind of works. A Brown Eyed Women. And that's the end of the first set. And really, it starts off really strong, and then the songs is kind of the quality of how much you like the songs and whether the rest of the set is any good. But it's just got really good energy, really good playing. Enough really good songs, I think, to make it interesting. Though by the end of the first set, that El Paso Road Jimmy Around and Around. Yeah, we've heard that a lot before. But it's still got some good playing. Disc 2 opens up with a Loretta Lynn cover, You Ain't Woman Enough, sung by Donna, and it sounds fantastic. Why Donna is not singing more country covers like this, I don't understand. I think this sounds great. It's one of the reasons I like this second disc so much. I want to hear the song, and so it's the first track. It kind of opens the door and ushers me into the rest of this set or the rest of this disc. Yeah, there should be more of these. She only did this song like about a dozen times, I think. But man, this sounds good. She sounds good. Her voice sounds good. It's a great cover. Yeah, I don't know why she wasn't doing more covers, to be honest with you. Then we get a Looks Like Rain, and then the second set closes with a pretty solid China Rider. We got that Feeling Groovy jam in there. It just, Feeling Groovy? Is that what it is? Feeling Groovy, yeah. That Feeling Groovy jam that's in there. Yeah, just your really good early 73 China Rider. Some good energy, kind of pushing us, and opening up the door for the more lengthier improv that would that would happen in the second set. A pretty just fun, interesting, like first set listen. Like I don't think there's anything truly epic in here, but there's a lot of interesting song choices, and it's just a fun show to listen to. And that You Ain't Woman Enough is absolutely fantastic. So the second set continues on disc 2, and again, it's a pretty interesting all over the place first half of this second set. Promised Land opens, okay? Then we get a Loose Lucy that just doesn't work. Loose Lucy started off kind of slow, and then it got fast, and then it went slow again. And these initial slow versions just don't work. Sounds like it's at the wrong speed. Sounds like Jerry's forgetting like how the riff goes, and he's trying to just drag it out to cover his footsteps. But no, the energy is just lacking. Like this is a song they kind of never really figured out. I think by the time they got to like the late 80s, 90s, I liked that really slow strut that version had. But yeah, this is a weird song that I don't think they figured out until like, much later in their career. And so it's an interesting listen. I can't say it's very good, but being that it does fail makes it kind of, intriguing. Then we get a Me and My Uncle. We get a Don't Ease Me In. I'm always for these middle of the set Don't Ease Me Ins. We get a The Race Is On, and Donna's harmonies on here sound really good. Again, Donna's stepping up and making things sound fantastic. Then we get a standalone Stella Blue. Doesn't come out of Races On. It doesn't go into the big river that follows. And so it has that very dramatic sort of dun intro in the beginning. And it feels a little more like delicate and fragile, and just like, because it's not like tied to what is before after it just feels like it's this weird little almost like China doll, like just standing in the middle of all these like rougher, tougher energies. And it's neat to hear like a standalone Stella Blue. Not the most epic Stella Blue. That happened on a couple Dave's picks past. But it's neat to hear it in this sort of, it's odd, and it's neat to hear it as a standalone song and not like taking the energy of other songs. I always think that the tail end Jerry ballad, Stella Blue, Wharf Rat, Black Peter, when that happened, China Doll, if that ever happened, those type of songs like Morning Dew took the energy of the entire show, and Jerry would funnel that energy into like this one slower song and then like release that energy in the closing solo. This doesn't have the luxury of that, but it's still an interesting listen. Then we get a Big River. And then I think the meat of the show, this is the only thing I wish the sequencing was different. Starts with the Mississippi Uptown, Half Step Uptown Toodaloo, which closes the second disc. So we get a really nice Mississippi, not the longest one, not the most jammy one, just a really good version of a really good song. Then disc 2 ends and we go into disc 3. And disc 3 is just almost perfect. Opens up with the Weather Report Suite Prelude, not the entire song, just like that opening intro like guitar part that they had written prior to having written the rest of the song. So the Weather Report Suite, as we know it with like the part 1 and Let It Grow part 2, would not debut until later in 73. But here, I think once in 72, a handful of times in 73, like maybe half a dozen times total, they play just this intro part. And so they play it, And it's about 3 minutes long. It sounds beautiful, kind of sounds, very delicate, just sounds amazing. There's even a little like Jerry playing around before it, right before they go into Weather Report Suite proper, and even before they go into a proper fill, is kind of noodling around and almost plays what sounds like some Dark Star notes, but then they go into this like 3 minute intro, then they go into Dark Star, and this is one of the typical 72, early 73, lyrically pleasant, very melodic, very psychedelic, happy, like positive energy, very jazzy. Jerry's going off, but not in a really aggressive way, just in like he's running through a field having so much fun exploring like ideas, and nothing ever gets too dark or strange or weird. It's just happy and positive and uplifting, and the band sounds like they're having a fantastic time. And this goes on for, I don't know, about 15 minutes, I think, before they get to the first verse. It's a pretty lengthy time, but it is just like, it is definitely not one of those that's going to new places as far as like the Dead were concerned. Like by the end of 73, the Dark Stars were getting some darker energy. This is still just such a feel good, like I love it. It just feels so comfortable. And Jerry is just going off. And like there are moments when Bill is particularly effective, or Bob has some moments, or Phil, but it's a Jerry driven, Jerry centric, like first part of Dark Star. We get the first verse, like it might be even 20 minutes before we get the first verse. It takes a while. Then we go into like a space, like a deep space portion for almost the rest of it. Keith has some really nice moments where Keith kind of takes over and drives the jam, and then Jerry comes back in. There's some nice little, what sounds like a drum solo that's kind of in there at one point. Gets kind of weird and exploratory and very spacey, but not in a deep, scary, like we're lost, floating, directionless in space, and we have no hope of finding our way home way. It's a very playful, exploratory, a very kind of light. There are moments that kind of like hint at what would come like later in the year and in 74, but for the most part, we stay pretty positive and happy and like, oh yeah, we're just going to do this in an exploratory way. Just a really neat, like 31 minutes total of this, and it just feels good, and I love listening to it. And it's one of those like Sunday afternoon or late night chill. It's just got such good energy. And that goes into An Eyes of the World, which also has just phenomenal energy. Little upbeat. We do get the Stronger Than Dirt-esque coda at the end, but even before we get to that coda, it almost feels like they're not going to make it there, because that like post third verse chorus jam is just kind of really going out there and really kind of introducing some new ideas that still stay in that sort of pocket of being upbeat and positive and feel good, but also are getting a little more intense, a little more like, all right, pushing the boundaries of like, noise, and maybe just getting a little more aggressive than what has happened so far. But then right when that peaks, we go into like the Stronger Than Dirt jam, and it's just a great jam. And then after that, we get a playing in the band. So like we have this amazing just run of Mississippi, Weather Report, Sweet Prelude, Dark Star, Eyes of the World, and then just another playing in the band. And the play and jam feels like they don't have much more to say that's new. And maybe the show could have effectively, like, I don't think the playing in the band adds much as far as like a highlight. It's definitely not one of the best playing in the bands that have been released, but it again, it just feels good. The band is having a good time playing, and it almost feels like there's a Johnny Be Good that follows it. That must be the encore, because the playing in the band, they play the reprise and it ends, and then they come back for Johnny Be Good. It almost feels like it should have just ended at playing in the band. Like they're like, we got about 9, 10 more minutes of jamming left in us. We might not be saying anything new, but we're going to go out there and do it. And that's kind of what it feels like. It's like Jerry's just, I'm not done playing. I want to play some more. So let's just keep going. And eventually, when it starts to get a little like, again, when it starts to peak and go in like a more chaotic direction, we jump back into the reprise and we finish the song. And then we get a Johnny Be Good to close. But it's just, disc 3 is just an almost perfect listen if you really like positive, upbeat, happy Jerry guitar playing with some vocals, some Dark Star verse, some Eyes of the World playing in the band, not much vocals. But really, what else would you want them to sing vocals for other than those 3 songs? But yeah, a really, really interesting show. Another fascinating show from what is the Dead's most like interesting period, that 72, 73, 74 run. A lot of really good performances of songs, some stuff that you're not going to hear on any other releases, and then just some not groundbreaking jams or not even jams that would make a top 5 or top 10 list, but just really good, happy, pleasant, feel good, sounds amazing type music. That's essentially the last, hour of the show, right? We start with Mississippi, that's 10:41. Yeah, more than an hour of the show. Yeah, just ridiculous. So yeah, I really, really like this. I really like this a lot. So much so that it ends up right there on the list, people. That's pretty high up, right? Number 5. Like, we took a big jump, right? And I do think those top 5 are all really, really strong releases. I think everything after that top 5, we go into has absolutely great moments. And it's just a really, really strong show, but is not consistently as intriguing or as epic as I think the top 5. But yeah, those top 5 are just great. And again, we're all 74, 70, 73, 72, 73. So yeah, the strength of this band right there. But yeah, that's where I would rank it thus far. I have the right to change it if I do change my mind, but it's a really good release, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I don't think Donna should have sang way more than she was allowed to. Yeah, but that's it. Thanks for watching. Comment, like, subscribe, and most importantly, go listen to music, people, because that's the whole point of this channel, to get people to find new music, to listen to music, to enjoy new music. Take care, y'all. Peace.